Oh wait, yeah, we're starting the broadcast for 8:36 for the new moon session on July 12th. Oops. I just forgot to push the broadcast button. Someone's supposed to double check that. Whoever is the video indexer is supposed to be double checking to make sure that the broadcast is working.
Oh, sorry for that.
So we just
Next time.
Yeah, we just missed 36 or about 30 minutes, but that's fine. It's not a big deal. It was just mainly us being silent anyways. All right. So 5 more minutes on our voting for for finishing up here on our goals, and then we're going to go ahead and get started.
Excuse me?
Yep.
Where is the goal document?
So you have internal team setup, which is the first tab. And it looks like we're pretty good on that. And then you just click here. The next tab, it's 138-degree July-August goals.
Okay.
Do you have non-profit taxes going on?
Mo taxes would include all of the taxes, including nonprofit.
Okay. Wow, we spent already 5 minutes on top of that.
Rahul, did you get the spreadsheet? Not it. Let me send you on the
Joseph, you're not even there.
I'm there.
Just open
What
the
is
Hangout.
the 20 number list of client services? What is priority actually?
I didn't get that.
Sponsorship.
timekeeper.
Mm.
Can you check on time? Don't spend more than 10 minutes.
How about just like 1 more minute?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, just a minute.
Yeah, it's been a few months since we've really done our prioritization for our goals. So I think this is a really important, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Wahoo, you need just to vote under your name on the internal team setup. Then goals for 136 July, August under your name.
Wahoo, do you have the link to the prioritization spreadsheet?
Yeah, I sent her through the Hangout.
I'm voting now.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And you can vote throughout the meeting. Like if you don't catch up, it's fine.
Joseph, if you're through there, go to internal setup because I see you are on goals.
Yes. Switch.
Okay, so are we pretty much good to go here? Are we ready to move on, or do people need another minute?
Give them 1 minute.
Okay, 1 more minute. But it looks like we have pretty good priorities going on here.
Yeah.
Steve, you're not done with internal setup.
Yeah, internal setup's the most important. Obviously, the most important are the top 10. We're probably not going to get beyond more than the top 10 items. So let's make sure we focus on those. From there, the goals are really important, but you can do those throughout the whole time. We probably aren't going to get to focus on them.
then Joseph and Steve Ozil, they should vote for top 10. We have some gaps, line 9, line 8 for Joseph.
Cool. So I think we're ready to move on. Are we ready?
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
let's do this. So we have our top, let's do our top 11. And we can just add those to our desired outcomes and focus of the meeting. So this would be our top 10 internal team priorities. And then once we get to number 11, we would switch to our primary topics of our overall goals. And so we would go ahead and see if we can see where our prioritization is for now. So it looks like the number 1 priority is the sponsorship program. Pretty cool. So what you can see here is like when we get into the internal team setup, number 9 here, we actually go back to our internal team setup. So you can see that this perfectly lines up and is exactly what we would want. So basically you go through 1 down to 11. At 11, you switch from your internal team setup to your goals and priorities for the month. And then 1 through 8 are our goals and priorities. And then number 9 is switching back to our internal team setup. All right.
Yeah.
So that definitely looks really, really good. So let's go through desired outcomes and see if there's anything that we're missing, and then we'll be good to go. So desired outcomes, obviously we want to finalize our budget for the month. Which is our number 3 proposal, our number 3 agenda item. Is there anything else that anyone wants to have as a desired outcome? No other desired outcomes except for the budget. The budget and team building is our only desired outcomes.
Maybe if you can remind us about top priority responsibilities.
Okay, so to review our priorities.
Yes.
Our priorities and top responsibilities. Cool. So we're going to be doing that within our mandatory priorities. Also with the elections of the co-chairs, the co-chair elections are supposed to happen before the new moon session and the full moon session. So we're supposed to send out all of the information, you know, in the voting form, and then everyone votes, and then you calculate it. And then once we're at the meeting, you just announce the winner. It should all be done before the meeting. And that actually is going to be a soft stop, hard stop. We're not going to go over that probably today, but you know, we need to make sure that that is happening because it's essential for the functioning of the organization. All right, so any other desired outcomes?
Goals for the next 1 month.
To review our goals for the month?
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully create hopefully state goals for each priority. So review our priorities. Priorities for the month. Priorities. Okay, cool. And that would be step 11. So we might have to skip a couple things if we want to get there, or get through some of this faster if we want to get to that. Okay, so any other topics that anyone wants to talk about, discuss besides the ones listed here?
I think those are enough for now. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so
And Jay,
yeah.
Can we come up with something else apart from that? And most of the time, how do we know the topic that you vote for are the priority that they need to be discussed?
I mean, it's basically what's happening here is that we have how many people we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. So we have 7 people and everyone's voting. So the reason why we know these are the right topics is because people are voting and prioritizing. So we're going to talk about what is the most important for the group. So Wahoo didn't vote, though. Did Wahoo vote over here? Okay, great. So Wahoo's voting on our goals for the month, which is good. But so Wahoo, just so you understand, the goals for the month are just one part of our priorities, and then the other priority is the internal team setup. So the internal team setup is more of like how we work together as a team, and then the goals are what we actually are doing for the work that we do, right? So be sure to vote for at least the top 10 for our internal team setup, okay?
Okay.
And we have to do our internal team setup first, because if as a team, if we're not organized and set up, it doesn't matter what we're trying to do, we're not going to be very successful. So the first thing we do is we get organized and set ourselves up as a team, and then we get focused on our goals and priorities for the month. All right, so I feel like overall, you know, if something's not a priority, it should go really fast. Does that make sense, Lucy?
Yeah.
You know, so right here, what we can see is the number one item is methods. So everybody here says that they want to talk about methods. I would say that methods being the number one item makes a lot of sense. If you go back to the Saturn session, the series session, we all agreed that if we can get our methods grounded and functional, that everything else will fall into place. So it's by far the most important thing to team building and effectively working as a team. So it makes sense to spend 10 or 15 minutes at each session talking about our methods briefly. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we're going to go through our mandatory priorities, which will be like the work that needs to get done. We can do that quickly, and then we'll jump right into our budget. So, I mean, and if all we do is 1, 2, 3, we're pretty good shape. Do you see? So you see, Lucy, like if we just do the first couple agenda items, we should still be functional as a team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only thing missing here is that with our elections for our co-chairs, that should already have happened. So I mean, even going to that section, it's really not like we can't really do much for that, because we're not ready for it. Okay, so let's get, are there any other topics that anyone wants to add, or does everyone feel good about these topics? Are there any objections? And just the last thing here is I did add within our goals, I added a column here of whether or not it's paid client work to help give us a little bit more focus on whether there's like a budget for it.
At least, no.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the first, are there any objections to our topics and focus the meeting? All right, well, let's get started. That took us a while. Usually we are able to complete all of that within a half an hour as opposed to a full hour. But it's been over a couple months since we really deep dived into getting organized and getting everything together as a team. So I think it's good. All right, so let's go through our methods. I can't remember, how long do we have for this? Just like 10 minutes. All right, so let's try to keep this to 10 minutes.
Okay.
And let's pull up the methodology doc. So does someone want to describe what a method is?
Is it a process?
No. All right, so let's do some so this would be like a mini glossary. We want to start doing our glossaries. So we have methods, processes, systems. What's the difference between a process and a system and a method? So here's the definition of how we talk about systems. Here's the definition of how we talk about processes. It's a little bigger for you. Can anyone describe what a method is?
A method is a way of doing a task or performing a specific.
I'm going to just say a way of doing work.
Method is combinedly related with system and processes.
I didn't understand. You want to say that again?
The system and processes comes together as a method. Probably.
Did anyone understand Zilu?
Come again, Zilu.
The systems and processes combinedly and define as methodology.
So you're defining your methods as your systems and processes? If you're defining methods as systems and processes, the answer is no. The way that we define methods is not as a system or a process. A system is a system and a process is a process. A method is neither a system nor a process. A method is how we go about creating and implementing our systems and processes.
And a process may have different methods. It's a sequence of methods.
A process may, well, you may implement different methods within your processes, but a process is a specific step, a specific set of steps to accomplish your goal. For example, step 1, step 2, step 3, and you have to go through each step in a linear format in order to accomplish the goal. And it's a single, clear, step-by-step goal with step-by-step instructions. That's how we define a process. Right? Yeah. A system is a set of processes that are all related to accomplish many overall goals and objectives, and usually some type of deliverable. But with a system, you can have multiple processes concurrent and functional simultaneously.
Excuse me. We have 4 minutes this topic.
So let's have an example of a method. Anyone think of an example of a method? All right, I'll give one. The scientific method. Right? Does everyone know the scientific method?
No. No.
You don't know the scientific method? Well, we can review it really quickly, but the key thing about the scientific method to understand is that the scientific method is not a process or a system, right? You can have many detailed processes and systems and policies of how you do your science, but the scientific method itself is just a methodology to how you approach your work. So the scientific method is a method of procedure that has characterized natural science consisting of systematic observation, measurement, and experimentation, formation, testing, and modification of hypotheses. All right, so if we look at a diagram, you can basically see here, I think something like this works pretty good. The scientific method: question, hypothesize, experiment, observe, analyze, share results. Purpose: research, hypothesis, experiment, analyze, conclusion. Make observations, think of interesting questions, formulate a hypothesis, develop testable predictions, gather data, test predictions, refine, alter, develop theories, and it just goes around and around and around. It's never ending. So it doesn't matter what you're trying to accomplish or what experiment or what question you're trying to solve or what your theory is, the scientific method is applicable to everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the primary difference between a method and a system is that a system or a process is specific to what you're trying to accomplish, whereas a method is general and applicable to everything. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see if we can there. Oh no, that's
We are left with only 3 minutes.
oh no, we're doing good. Let's just go ahead and add this. So what are our most important methods? Can you remember our most important methods? No one can name any of our methods? I linked the doc right here. I mean, we've talked about this many, many times. I mean, if you guys want to just move on, we can just move on. It's fine. Does anyone want to talk about methods anymore, or are we moving on? Does anyone even hear me? Hello?
I think we can move on.
I want to connect with the methods for communication, or what method to do it right now.
Say again, Zila, I can't hear you.
Are you going to talk with for communication method or what?
That would be one of our methods, our communication methods. That would be an example.
I see.
Do we have any other methods, or is that our only method?
Function as a team.
function as a team.
Working method.
Our teamwork method.
Yeah.
Okay, any other methods? I would almost say that methods in general are a form of teamwork, right? We have our methods in order to function better as a team. But we could also have specific methods for teamwork. So do we have any other methods? So it's not a trick question. You can just go to all of our notes and you know, most of it has been indexed. I don't think we index everything. So we have certainly some problems. But the most important one that I'm trying to get you guys to list that we've gone over many times is our organizing methodology.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why we missed that one. What's one of the most important components of our organizing method?
Responsibility organizing.
Yes, responsibility organizing process. Okay. So a couple other methods we're going to go through is our intentional prioritization method, right? What we just did as a group was part of intentional prioritization. We prioritize as a group and actually have intention with what we're talking about. And another one is our managing method, right? So we have, like when we do management, we have a method specifically of how we manage and coordinate. So these are examples of methods that we are currently co-creating together. So if someone can please make sure we index this all to the methodology doc.
Yeah.
That would be good. Especially our glossary.
What about worker coordination? Can we say worker coordination method or is under teamwork?
Yeah. Yeah, worker coordination in and of itself would not be a method. It would be a project.
Okay.
So that would be part of our teamwork methods and just all of our aspects of it. Cool. All right, so I think that we are good. So are there any other questions about our methods? And you can learn more about the methods on the methodology doc. All right, what's our next topic? And we're going to continue to go over each one of these methods in detail. So we want every single one of these methods. These are 5 methods listed here. We want to go over all of them in detail. And then also but first it's very important for people to understand what even method even is and why we're even talking about methods. So I'm glad we covered that today because it seems like we didn't really understand it. So we should continue to talk about the why methods are important. But again, it's mainly because we want to work better as a team. All right, so the next topic is the mandatory priorities. So we're going to go ahead and link the mandatory priorities doc. So anyone who's doing this can help with that. And we'll just do the same, about 10 minutes on this. I'm going to start by noting that there's 2 other subcomponents for mandatory priorities. There's the soft/hard stop coordination. And then we also have the client coordination, client work coordination. So both of these are additional, like this one, Teresa was working on it. Teresa was supposed to be working on this. But we need to create a doc, et cetera, and spreadsheet for just the client work. And then the hard stop, soft stop coordination, I believe Zilu, Lucy, Albina, you were all working on this. So this particular component of our mandatory priorities, oh no, what happened? Would be under the management. So let's start from the bottom today. So if we go to our management, we have general oversight management, which is basically just overseeing all of the mandatory priority responsibilities and what people sign up for. Then there's the mandatory responsibilities. Then we have client work coordination and the hard stop, soft stop coordination. And then there's also website planning, prioritization, and management. So these are management. I guess the only other one that we have here is the Tracy event, which Farah is doing. And this is both prep and follow-up. Are there any questions about the management coordination?
Probably we are missing the positions for the management.
Well, the position would be the website manager, Tracy event, client manager, general oversight manager, mandatory responsibilities coordinator, client work coordinator, right? So the positions are the actual, that's the same thing, okay?
I think, yeah, but on oversight management coordination, maybe Zulu, you can give Jessica and Steve or those documents. They have so that they can have a clue on
what is every single
management oversight.
What will say?
On a general oversight, maybe they don't have the document. Do you have maybe the document for management, like manager general overall doc, so that maybe Steve can go through, or Rachel, Jessica?
Yeah, so we need to organize our management coordination much better. We need the training videos organized and linked. We need the general management position linked. And then every single manager position needs to have a manager doc, right? Just the same as every single client needs to have a client doc, right? And those need to be linked here. I believe the soft stop, hard stop coordination does have a doc. And the Tracy event also has a doc, right? So we could say, you know, link doc here. This one would be create doc. This one, link doc. Link existing.
But we have a position doc.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
We have to add president. So there.
I'm talking about the position doc for the management coordination. All right. And this general oversight management coordination would be like, Lucy, you were doing that before in the past, right? So you want to pass it on to Zelu, Rachel, Jessica, and Steve. And then you guys have been, you made sure that each priority has a link to more details and responsibilities, but this should be the client docs and you know, manager docs, right? So there's a specific doc that's linked to each of these things right here, you know, okay? But we did pretty good. I mean, we have a lot of this, we have the taxes. This is the taxes doc, but there should still be a client doc for the MoTaxes. That should be linked here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Every client has a client doc. All right. So the mission within, I linked this as it's the linked client doc. Tracy investor relations event doc. Right. Boom. That's correct. And the verification spreadsheet should be linked off the doc. Like you don't need to link the verification spreadsheet here because it's already linked to the doc. Everything you need to know should be at the doc. All right, so are there any other questions about other mandatory priorities? I mean, we've gone over it quite a few times. Our sponsorship is going well. Our main session support's going well. We're all here. Our Legion member services is brand new. We're just starting this. Farah created the client doc, so that's good. And hopefully we'll talk more about this soon. I believe it's on our priority list, but I don't know. Let's see, it made the cut. No, it did not. Anyways, we'll get to it eventually. Personnel support, we're making progress. Could be better. Budget work, we're making progress. We might have to wait a month. Mo taxes, we're making progress. So are there any other questions about our individual work? For those of you who are choosing responsibilities still, you should be able to find most of the responsibilities within the linked documents. So you can click the links now. Before they weren't there.
As the individual work is allowed or not, actually?
What?
Individual works is allowed or not?
Individual what?
Individual works is allowed or not?
What is allowed?
To do the individual work.
To do what work?
Individual work.
Can someone define individual work, please?
Someone marked all over yellow on my work report of the individual works. For that I'm asking.
Can someone define individual work?
Working alone.
What does that mean, working on what alone?
Doing doing individual work. How can I don't know.
All right, so where would you find that? You would find that in our buddy team processes.
Buddy team process policies.
Yeah, so if we go to our buddy team processes, it will have clear definitions.
I think everyone we are given like according to levels, individual hours, like 2 hours if you are level 4. If you are level 3, you are given like 1 hour on according to our policy.
But that's still a little bit different. So this is you know. So, I mean, we want to make sure it's really clear on all of our policies and everything.
Individual work was allowed, so what people can do individually or without any body team's help, then they can work individual work if they know how to complete the responsibilities. That was the individual work, right? Right.
All right, here's our buddy team process. Guidelines. All right, so here we go. We have... well, I don't even see any individual work. There's assistance. What do we call it? Where's the template buddy team notes? So yeah, we call it individual work. So individual work is when you're focused on a responsibility during a buddy team. So it's like, this is your responsibility and you know how to do it. Example. Any examples?
Yes. For example, I might work with the Albina. I'm doing my own individual, Albina doing us, but in a buddy team.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like I'm doing a payroll verification. Lucy is doing
and Lucy working on like sponsorship.
Yeah.
Or very good, right? So so that would be an example. Another example would be Farah working or watching training videos.
Yeah.
While J focuses on client work, right? With mission within. So that's individual work because you're doing the work individually, right? This is the most efficient way of working. The most efficient way to work. Does that make sense? There's no other more efficient way to work. The problem is that you can't do individual work if you don't know how to do it. And that's where you have our other forms of work, which include assistant support position work, self-driven work, dual work positions, and multi-work positions. Does that make sense?
Yes. Does it mean that you cannot log into the Hangout and work on your own when it is not time for...
The individual work should go for body team, or it should be only on Hangout? Is availability is okay?
So individual work is work done as an individual on responsibilities that you have during your buddy teams. Extra time per week is that each worker is assigned a minimum of 1 hour of extra time to do anything you need on your own time.
Yeah.
So the key is on your own time, which has nothing to do with individual work or not. You can do buddy teams on your own time if you want to. Does that make sense? So if you have an extra hour of time and you want to do a buddy team, that's fine. It doesn't have to be individual work, but the point is that it's extra time, right? So in the concept of this is like you still must track all of your hours. It's not untracked hours. It's just extra time per week, right? So for this one, you have new recruits typically get 2 extra hours on top of the 1 hour, which is equal to 3 total for about 1 month. And then level 4 get 2 hours per week. Right?
Do you have to be in the Hangout during that time?
No.
Yes.
No, you don't. So examples of this could be Skype communications, right? Doing work reporting, right? Just like, organizing your main doc, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay?
So Lucy, you go back to my work report and just make unmark yellow there.
Yes, I just want to explain why I marked yellow. All your work is
What is the
whoa, guys, you guys are changing the topic.
Wait, let me explain.
We're changing the topic, guys.
I put that and I sent the message over the Skype. I was not even alone. I was in Filipina. All your work is showing individual. You don't have anybody. So it becomes our concern. Is it allowed for anyone to just work individually without having a body team? So I just marked yellow so that maybe if that is allowed for everyone, because we work as a team, if that is a policy whereby everyone should work at their own given time.
Okay, so wait. There's one other important vocabulary term that we all need to understand, right? Which is the last one, which is self-driven work. Right? A self-driven assigned responsibility, right? Or a self-driven assigned responsibility. The reason why we call it self-driven instead of individual is because the idea is that you drive the work yourself. You yourself are responsible for your own accomplishment, right? Whereas individual work, anyone can work as an individual anytime within a buddy team or not within a buddy team. But when you have self-driven responsibilities, where you have an assigned responsibility that's self-driven, means, right, that you can work on this responsibility at any time, day or night. and ask for help from others. Does that make sense?
Yes. And what happens if someone is working on self-driven? Okay?
So self-driven work
Does
means,
it mean that person is not supposed to Skype what that person do on the Skype?
no.
Yes, I'm working
So
on
you
this.
still need to let people know what you're working on, and technically you're supposed to jump on the Hangout even if you are alone.
Yeah.
On the Hangout. Right, so under our we actually have I believe we have, if we look at the work session, let's see if we have it. We go to work session policies. So this would be an individual session. So this is called, technically you're supposed to jump on the Hangout. This is what's called an individual session. And then this would be the individual session policies. Right, so if this is not individual work, this would be more like self-driven individual session policies. And you know, this relates to the extra time, right? As well as but primarily it's focused on self-driven work. And this is definitely not updated correctly, but it just, technically speaking, you're supposed to jump onto the Hangout when you're doing individual sessions, but it's not always possible. It's a little more of like a guideline than a protocol. But the point is that, like, let's say we assign Zelu, and Zelu has self-driven work specifically related to calendar and scheduling and Mo taxes. Calendar and scheduling is pretty straightforward. Zelu primarily focuses on the Selenium calendar, and he does like the reminders. He does it on his own, and it works perfectly fine. But something like the Mo taxes is 10 times more work than Zelu could ever do by himself. So that creates a problem where if Zelu's not communicating and working with a team and training other people how to do the work, the work can't possibly be getting done. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. For that, I created for the Sonic time that people can attend on that, and I can make some video there also if I need. Also can train new recruits. For that, we are organizing 2 levels for body teams there. And if needed for the management coordination, then I am also able to do some body teams on the schedule there. So what else I can do there?
Cool. So does that make sense, Lucy?
Yes.
Cool. So I mean, overall, it's obviously an issue. We should bring it up. We should talk about it. But I think that Zelu has been going out of his way to schedule more time during his level 4 buddy teams and collaborate more with people as a team. But obviously there's some work that he's going to have to continue to do on his own just because it's self-driven work, and it's when he's available to do it, you know? Cool. So we just want to make sure it's a balance. Are there any other questions about the mandatory priorities and the assignment of the different work? And I guess the only other thing that we can note here under general management oversight, this should also include like update the self-driven responsibilities list. Okay. So we should have a very specific list of who's been assigned what self-driven responsibilities, which means they can work on it anytime they want to. And typically it also involves like that, for example, Zelu at any time can request anyone to jump on the Hangout with him to help him with the Mo taxes, for example. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so I think we're good on all of this. The only thing we didn't cover was the real-time virtual assistant work. I mean, the only thing I have to say about this is we need to do overall training on real-time virtual assistants in general, because I don't think people quite understand it. But it needs to be real-time with me present on the Hangout where we're working together, or you're giving me the space to be able to focus on it on my own, right? So it's just like, it's helping me focus on this work that only I can do at this time. And then by working together on it, I can help pass it off to you so that you can take it on afterwards. Okay?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I think we're good on the mandatory priorities, and we're probably over time. Any other questions on mandatory priorities, or ready to do the budget?
If you are on mandatory, which is the most important priority that we need to get it done?
Well, that would be our goals for the week, for the month. Right? So let's take a quick look at our goals here. We have the sponsorship program. And there is a component of the sponsorship program that's going to be related to
Finance.
the UESS and the board support, because there's a board's decisions that are going on there that I want to mention. Then we have our Mo taxes, and then we just have general client support. This general client support right here, this client support includes client billing, right? It also includes the mandatory priorities we just went through in terms of the client coordination, right? Client work coordination, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So this would be billing, work coordination. So I would say that and then the last thing we have here is the media and websites and tokens, and this is relating to our Legion / member relations as well. Okay.
Okay.
So these are perfectly fine priorities. I think this is great.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, does sponsorship program need to be our #1 priority? You know, I don't know. The other one that's not included here that we probably should make sure that is included is the mission within. So one of the things that could be done for the coordination, right? So if we go back to our mandatory priorities and session support, right? We want to make sure all our clients are listed on our monthly goals to be prioritized. And so that's part of the session support and preparation. So mission within is a new client, so that's why it's not included here. But we have the mission within our only external client. So currently the mission within is our only external client. So for me, this would be very high priority. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you in future create the tab for client only? We separate client work from internal operation?
Yeah, so on the mandatory priorities, there's 2 additional layers of coordination. Right, so the mandatory priorities is everything. As long as you're choosing a mandatory priority, you're meeting the policy, right? No one's allowed to do anything unless you're exempt. That's not in the mandatory priorities. The only people, like basically no upfront pay workers, once Wahoo becomes a volunteer, she basically will be able to do work on other things that aren't mandatory priorities, right? But for now, we need to focus on mandatory priorities. And then the other key is the client work coordination and the hard soft stop coordination. So the client work coordination, we need a separate doc that's only going to list client work and not list anything else. Does that make sense, Lucy?
Yes.
We're going to have a spreadsheet, create a doc and spreadsheet. We're going to have a verification spreadsheet that only lists the client responsibilities and nothing else. Okay?
Yeah.
And then the same thing with the soft hard stop coordination. We're going to have a list of responsibilities that are only for hard stop and soft stop. And for this one, we want to add the co-chair elections. All right, are we good?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so budget. Maybe we should take a break before we talk about the budget.
Yeah.
So can we link all the information? We'll take a 5-minute break here. We'll link all the information, get ready for the budget. You know, the goal here is to pass a monthly budget. Our options are really twofold. Option 1 is to just approve the existing budget for the month, and this would be no additional cuts. And then option 2 is to immediately reduce the budget by as much as $1,000. Okay, so let's take a break and then let's have a discussion about the budget. And then if this is the last thing that we do today, we're perfectly fine. So it'll be great to get through all of our agenda, but this agenda will be our topics for the whole month. With the quarter moons and the full moons, we'll basically continue this agenda, and the goal will be by the whole month we'll get through the whole thing. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and work on the budget, and we'll either decide to stop at that point or we can continue on after we finish the budget.
Good.
Great.
5-minute break.
You guys ready to keep going?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yes, I'm back. Yes.
Yes, but
All right. So budget. We don't have the actual budget from actual proposal. So, but this looks like the approved amount, so this is good. I don't know why that would be negative 3,000. That's odd. Oh, that's because it's the wrong one. So it'd be equal to this minus that. So it's off by 64 cents. So this one's off by $63, so that's kind of odd. All of these ones look fine. They're only off by like a couple cents, less than $1. So the budget was 2,584. So does everyone understand the difference between option 1 and option 2? And typically we only, well, I guess it was approved. So this would be option 1. So are there any questions between the difference between option 1 and option 2?
Yeah, there is difference.
So I'm going to abstain. But bottom line, if we go with option number 2, this means that, you know, question mark, what work was done? Do we have new proposals? Do we have updated rankings? Right? If we approve option 1, then we have exactly, you know, 1 month to do soft/hard stop on rankings and new proposals to cut the budget.
3 minutes into this topic.
So does everyone understand the difference between option 1 and option 2?
Yeah.
yeah,
So my only question about option 2 is, like, you know, was any work done? Because Lucy, you voted for option 2 before. You and Albina said you were going to do work and get new proposals together and do updated rankings, but I'm not sure if that happened.
The only thing is rankings not. You said that we don't know how to do top ranking, so we stopped doing that.
Cool. So I mean, obviously that's a problem, but we also have the new rankings with the communications rankings, right? For checking in, etc.
Communication, I have a spreadsheet that is here. Let me send it.
Yeah, but anyways, the point is that we don't have new proposals, right? The answer to this is no, right? Is that correct?
New proposal how?
That reduced the budget by an additional $1,000 of who we would cut out of the budget. It's also good to remember that we added $50 for Mahidi, and we added $250 for, that equals an additional $300. So if this subtotal is 2,500, the actual total is 2,800. So bottom line, we are approving a budget that is 2,800 minus 1,600 is $1,200 over budget. So I mean, we just need to like if we do that, we need to like focus on cutting, you know, where we can. Like if Jessica and Rachel don't work, then that saves $300 right there. If Asif Razi doesn't work, that saves us a little money. Right? If Joyce or Aline don't work, that saves us a little money as well, right? So, but overall, in 1 month, we need to substantially either need to bring in more income and we have 1 month to either increase our income or we need to cut the budget. That would be option one.
I link the spreadsheet there. You can check.
Cool. Okay, but this has to do with the weekly check-ins. So let's go over this again at some point when we do the rankings. I was thinking a little bit more just like normal Skype messaging and communications and general communications. But this is a really good start because the weekly check-ins needs to be part of it, but it would still only be one part. All right, cool. So
Excuse me.
yes.
I think I have to leave now because I'm committed somewhere else.
Okay, do you want to vote on either option 1 or option 2, or would you like to abstain?
And just abstain.
You're going to abstain?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that Steve-O, right?
Yes.
All right. Did you want to check out, Steve?
Okay, let me check out very fast. Okay. Thank you, everyone. The session has been good. I've learned a lot. And I can rate it at 6.5. And for this week, I'll work on payroll setup. I'll continue doing invoicing, and that's all.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Does anyone else need to check out? Does anyone else need to check out? No. Okay. So let's go through it. Who wants to? Lucy, Albina, Wahoo, Joseph, Zilu. You guys want to vote? Option 1 or option 2?
I'm on option 1.
Zilu votes.
Joseph, you can take on time for Zilu. Where the timekeeping, please. Timekeeper.
Okay. Let me hold it.
Yeah, pick where the Steve would.
Cool. Thanks, Joseph. All right. So
I'm
Albina,
voting for option 1 as well.
okay. So we have Joseph for option 1.
Even though I was voting for option 2, I don't know.
So Lucy's going to stick with option 2. Wahoo? Albina?
Option 1. I
Wahoo?
voted option 1 already.
Great. Okay, so option 1 has more votes. So the proposal would be to continue with option 1 and to initiate soft and hard stop for preparing next month's budget cuts. So that would give us, I mean, basically we have what, 1 week for invoices, 2 weeks for rankings and new budget cuts and proposals. Okay. So, I mean, bottom line, the biggest problem here is that we simply, we did the entire budget, we approved it, we even passed it through the HR board and everything. I mean, the budget's done. We did better on our budgeting this month than ever before. The only problem is that our budget, our potential income got cut by, more than half. So the proposal is just to continue with option 1 for this month. It gives us a whole month to try to cut and reduce our budget to get under budget. And we're just be in the red for the month. And there's just nothing we just can't really do much about that. But I think we'll be okay. Last time it took us 4 months to cut our budget. So if we can cut our budget in 1 month, we'll be in pretty good shape. Okay?
Yeah.
So I am fine voting yes on this. I'll be a 7.
I'll vote yes.
Let me see. Yes.
7.5.
Okay.
Albina, yes, 7.
Zilu, Wahoo, Joseph. Zilu. Zilu.
Yeah, yes, 6.
Joseph.
Yes, 6.
So 6 would be technically an abstain.
6.7.
6.7. Okay, that would be closer to a yes.
Joseph, are you abstaining?
No. Let me go for.
Abstaining is always starting from.
This would
When
be
you
a-
vote for 6, you mean to abstain.
A 6 would be a positive abstention. A 5 would be a neutral
5
abstention.
votes? Yeah.
Okay, Wahoo, would you like to vote?
8.
8. All right, cool. So I would say that the proposal passes. And we have we already had a budget, but we don't need to change the budget. So we're good on that. All right, so would anyone like to help Lucy? So we have rankings. Obviously, I'm going to be involved in the rankings. Lucy, Alpina, does anyone else want to help with the rankings? In the budget, Joyce might come back and help with the budget. Lucy, Albina, anyone else want to help with the budget? All right, so that's our plan. And then the invoicing. Invoicing, we have...
Joseph, you don't want to learn on rankings?
Well, let's go through it ourselves, and then Joseph can jump in right after us, okay?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, because then we can train him on how to do it so that it's all organized and correct. We need to simplify and just get focused on the rankings and prioritize. I've done a lot of work on the ranking systems, but we just haven't actually checked in as a group for a while. So invoicing, we have Steve O. Anyone else doing invoicing?
Joseph.
Joseph?
Usually it's Joseph. And Jessica.
Yes, and Jessica.
Great. Okay. So also, I really think it would make sense to briefly review under, where is it here? Here we go. So if we go to the budget real quick. I've been working on the budget process to simplify and organize and making it really clear. So I think it's going to help. And we need a budget process doc. It's taking so long. All right. All right, so this is the budget systems. So we're gonna have a budget systems doc. So need to create a budget systems doc. So what that means is that there's multiple processes that oversee the budget. The first process is the invoicing. The second process is the tabulation. The third process is the budget creation and updating. The fourth project is creating the budget proposal options. Fifth process is the main session. Sixth process is the HR board voting form and vote. And the seventh process is HR vote verification. So this is what's required to approve a budget. But beyond that, there is two additional components to budget creation. There's the budget creation and updating processes itself. So this was within process, this is process number 4, where you need to duplicate the previous month's ranked budget, get all the information updated in the budget, and then verify that all the related responsibilities have been done. And then these are the related responsibilities. So in order to create a budget, you also need to do your invoicing, your accounting, your ranking, and auto proposals. And then we're also adding the non-communications. You need to add the Legion and sponsorship budgets, which are right here. Here's the sponsorship budget. Here's the Legion budget. You also need to add the main buddy team verification. And you need to find out how much funds we can get from RICO, right? Ideally, one day we will not be dependent on RICO and we'll have our own global budget separate from RICO, but right now we don't, right? So the money comes from basically the work that I do, right? So to fundraise, right? So this all needs to happen as part of creating our budget, which is one process of the 7 processes for the budget system. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, does that mean if you're not going to complete that, then you are going for hard stop next month?
Well, no, we're really good at doing this. Like, I have no doubt that we're going to be able to do this perfectly, right? The only things that are slightly changing is our invoicing. We've been focusing on client work, right? So we need to upgrade and start getting back to our internal ops as well. So we need to do both. We need to do both the client work and the internal ops. But it's really, think about it as there's 3. There's all, so you do all 3, right? There is the initial client income plus the client work pools and the internal ops work pools. Does that make sense? There's 3 parts. Right? There's the overall income from the clients. Then you break that down into 2 pools. One is the client work pools, and the other is the internal ops pools. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, so we want to improve our invoicing. Our accounting isn't great, but it's good enough. Our ranking is a problem. So this is the other thing that needs to be done that we need to rank. But that's pretty much it. Everything else we are doing really good at. Right? I'm not worried about any of it. You know, the only things that we want to step up on is our invoicing to bring instead of just doing client income, we stepped back. We did client income for 2 months and focused only on client income. So now we understand the client income, and now we're going to break the client income back into work pools and internal ops pools. And then we're going to be doing a full invoicing for the 2 teams. Accounting, we'll continually be improving on the accounting, but it's obviously important. We'll get better at it, so we don't want to forget this. But maybe we can wait, 1 month or so on that one. The ranking is what's important. We have to do the ranking, and all this other stuff we're fine. We're perfect on my main buddy team verification. I already did these budgets. They're super easy. RICO already knows how much money we can give without any additional accounting. So we're a pretty good situation, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely, let's create a budget systems doc so we can track and organize all of these 7 systems for the budget. And then we're also going to want to create a budget process doc, a budget creation process doc, which will be this fourth system, right? To creating the budget proposal options. This is the focus of the actual budget, and then all the other policies and responsibilities that need to happen in order to create the budget. All right.
Yeah.
So our budget's looking pretty good. Once we finish and we have this all perfect, the next most important step for the budget is the external client invoicing. Or no, let's just call it client invoicing.
Excuse me, Jay.
Yeah.
What is tabulation?
Cool. So
The second.
yeah, so global tabulation is where you take the invoices from New World and Old World and combine them together. So it's kind of like combining your main buddy team proposals. You have the individual proposals, and then you combine it into one for the whole global. So the global tabulation takes all of the individual invoices. Right now we just have New World and Old World, and combines them together to create one global tabulation for the budget.
Okay.
Yes. Cool.
So Jay, where will Wahu do his invoice? Is it under Old World or a New World?
Since she's global.
No, global workers are separate from, like, you're either Old World or you're New World, but some people are also global workers. Wahoo's a global worker, whereas Farah and Maricel are not global workers yet. And so, but everybody's in the Jello team. They're all in the Jello team. So it's all New World.
Including her? She built her work on a Jello team?
Yeah, so everybody should be in the Jello team or the New World, unless you're in the Old World, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. And the Old World, based on the Old World invoice, you gotta make a decision on who's gonna be in the Old World and who gets booted from the Old World and sent to the New World. So everybody who's been cut from the budget is all in New World, including Teresa, Aline, Joyce, you know, even Asif Razu and hey Zilu, what's going on with Asif Razu? Is he planning on coming for Friday or Saturday?
Yeah, he was able to do. He will available from next week.
Next week, okay. Cool. All right. Any other questions on the budget systems? And we do need to create a budget systems doc, and we want to index this all in here, and then we're going to be organizing the budget systems, and then we're going to focus on the fourth process, which is the actual budget creation and updating process. But each one of these is going to have its own doc with its own process. Okay? So there's going to be 7 separate process docs for how we create the monthly budget. And eventually it'll become a quarterly budget, and maybe one year it will become an annual budget. But for now, we're still monthly until we stabilize our budget more. All right, so I think we're ready to check out, or we could go through our wrap up and then we can check out, or is there any other specific things that we want to go over?
Wait, let me check.
Okay, about invoicing, people are working before end of month. How we do the invoicing, I don't understand. And also my client hours also counted before end of the month. Probably Jessica, Joseph, and some others guys was doing for the invoicing before end of the month. And they already prepared the invoice.
No, it is not done. I think they did up to week 3, so they need to complete.
Yeah.
It's not done. Actually, it isn't done.
They have to start after end of month, right? Not on the middle of the month.
Should be. In
fact, they were doing only client, but
working on invoice in the middle of the month.
Operations.
Okay, so there is so step 4 needs to be both you know, overall global and you know, super teams, right? So if the invoicing is due by the full moon, or there's a hard stop, right? So if you guys are saying that the invoicing didn't happen, that's a major problem. That means that we're not doing the mandatory priorities, which would include our hard soft stop work. Like maybe we need to talk about the hard soft stop coordination, because basically everyone should be on hard stop if we don't have our invoice completed by the full moon.
The invoice was happening, Jay, and the work they did is only for clients. But you say now we have to go back to the system that we have before so that we can include internal ops this work.
Okay, so okay, let's go backwards again. So this is the current 116 West is due by the full moon for 138 East, right? So you're saying that for this, it is already done.
For this man is already done.
Which one? 116.
Yeah. See, we are using for 116.
How this is possible?
116 we are using. No, yeah, not yet done. Yeah, sorry.
So
Yeah,
for the
116
previous
is
month
not
would be the 3 degree, right? Was it 3
Yeah,
degree?
3 degree, yes.
So 3 degree was due by full moon of the 116
Of
West.
116, yes.
Is this
Not 3
done?
degree, 151.
No.
151.
3 for 116. Then 150.
Due date for the last full moon.
Yeah.
So this is June, July.
Not 3
Is
Albina.
due for July, August. And then 3 degree is April, June.
May, June.
April. Oh yeah, May, June. May, June is due for July, June, July. So the question is this done? For the 3rd degree May, June budget that was due.
Yes. 3 degrees done.
So yes, this is completed for client work only, right?
Yes.
Cool. So I would just say like that's fine. Let's just leave it as client work only. Let's focus on the 116. So this is what we want to focus on. Focus on this and do both. Do all three client income and break into 2 pools of the client work pool and internal ops pool. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that should be good. And then once we get this completed and we're all on the same page for the invoicing, I mean, we're so close to the invoicing. We've been working on this for like 9 months at least, you know, and we're so close and it's been excruciatingly slow, but we're like, we're there. We're so close. But then once we can get that completed, the whole point of the entire process of doing invoicing is so that we can start our client invoicing. I can't think of anything more important to get and retain clients than client invoicing. You know, and we need to start with the mission within, right? Because this is our current only external client. Let's make sure that we're invoicing them and tracking our invoice work. And then also we can practice, with Plasmo and Mo taxes, et cetera, okay? So we need to start doing our client invoicing as soon as
Sponsorship.
possible. Sponsorship is much more complicated. Complicated because it has the overall sponsorship program client, and then there's individual programs. Each have an okay.
Okay.
Well, so let's hopefully we can get focused on client invoicing. There's pretty much nothing different from client invoicing in relationship to UMBUS invoicing. This would be UMBUS invoicing. The only difference is that instead of invoicing to UMBUS for all the work, we're only breaking it down to individual client work. And then instead of charging the amounts that we charge, we're going to be charging slightly different amounts and tracking slightly different work so that it matches up with all of the value. So we get full value, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once we get that completed, that checks off a huge chunk of what we need to do to bring in more income, right? And we went over that last week. I don't know if you guys want to review that really quick for what we need to do to bring in more income. But that was a very important, that was at the Earth session, right? That we covered that. Do we want to review that again real quick, or are we good?
Yeah, good.
Okay, so are we ready to wrap up and check out?
Yes, we are.
So are there any other next steps? I'm just going to add to review the list of what we need to do for increasing income. Any other next steps? Okay. Responsibilities, tasks. Does anyone have any questions about their responsibilities or tasks? Are people going to take on these tasks of like creating some of these docs and indexing everything? Index all of this. That's it. Is anyone going to do that?
I will.
Cool. Are there any other questions about tasks or responsibilities?
The only question I have about the communication that you say we are going to include on tracking. How are we going to track when you are not going to use the spreadsheet that I'm sending you?
The spreadsheet's fine. I would just say like the simple column would be, the last date of communication, right?
The last date of communication is the one I'm just putting, like the one I'm putting for Aline and Raz and
Okay,
Rachel.
So date and month is the last time they did the weekly check-in, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying the last date of communication, Skype, email, anything. Okay?
Yeah, this is for Skype. The last day for Skype is day 4 for Aline and likewise for Rachel.
Cool. So that's it. So if we could just document that, and then we would say like the number of days, et cetera, et cetera. But I think more than that, it would be good to know, how much communications they're doing. But that's a good start, So then maybe the next one would be to add, number of communications, during the month, right? So anyways, I think this is a good start, and we just need to get everyone ranked and see who's communicating the least, and then they would be automatically proposed to be cut from the budget. All right?
Yeah. So, where can we get the communication for us?
Yeah. But in Zilu, it's important to make it clear with Razu that he needs to communicate with all of us.
I was talking with him yesterday, and he confirmed that he will be available from next week.
Okay, but it's like I don't know what it means that you talk to him. Like if you're Skyping privately with him, that's against our policies. You know, you need.
Oh, that was a phone call. Yeah.
A phone call. Okay. So make sure that he needs to be updating the group on his activities, not just you. Okay. But it's great to hear it from you. But let's make sure, you know, and if he needs to take another week off, I think that's fine. Another policy change I want to note here. And this could be also next step. So policy change and proposal. We need some type of budgeting system where, or not where, but when people take time off, you know, they remove themselves from the budget. You know, they should plan ahead and be like, I'm not going to be around for the next couple of weeks. And so therefore we actually remove them from the budget. You know, and then it doesn't count against them. Otherwise, it's like if you're in the budget and you're not working, that should count against you. You know, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to be in the budget and not working. Anyways, let's figure out a policy proposal for that, because like it's perfectly fine for people to take breaks and be like, oh, I need to take 2 weeks off, like Joyce, or I need to take a month off. But then you need to tell us when you're coming back, when you're going to be in the budget, and how much it is actually going to cost us, so that like you can't just like randomly take off whatever time and come back whenever you want and not allow us to hire other people to replace you, you know? So we need a better way to organize our policies on the budget and people taking time off. Cool. All right. So any other questions on
task and responsibility? There I was creating a sheet to instead of a calendar that to define the deadline and the service time, and how to here I attach this sheet.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll figure it out one step at a time. Maybe it might take us another month or two. Well, Wahoo, your turn. Yes.
Okay. In communication document, FAR name is not there.
Farah?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's active. He has no problem. He is active.
Yeah. Farah is active. It's a she. Okay, so
she's active, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Happens all the time. All right, so I think we are done. If someone could do session value tracking, this is also a good thing to train new people on as well. Session value tracking is kind of fun, and session value tracking is now going to be client work.
Yes, I was about to ask you that. Last time you say client work. So when someone is doing value tracking, recording that as client work, what about on our invoice? We put under which
it's gonna be under Legion member relations.
Thank you.
And the reason why it's Legion member relations is because we are all members. We're a worker-owned cooperative. So when you work and you get value by attending sessions, and then we do our session value tracking, we issue you tokens and value, we're doing that as a member and as a co-creator and co-owner, and not as a worker. Okay?
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I think we're ready to check out. Any other questions about anything?
On the task and responsibility, there I was create a spreadsheet to find out people that what is the deadline for those, and you can see that it would help to figure out on the.
I mean, we have a task and responsibility verification spreadsheets for weekly, every other week, twice a week, monthly. All that already exists. Have you seen any of those, Zilu?
I will find it out.
Yeah, you can check in with Abdul as well if you're able to talk to him, but he was the one working on that. And you would go into our responsibility list of responsibilities and the verification based on time period.
Okay, I will find out.
And if you want to help update that, that would be good, but it's not necessarily a mandatory priority at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, the main thing is what is the responsibility, who is doing it, and then following up with them to make sure they do it. That's what management is. Does that make sense? Like creating another calendar with another list of what needs to be done isn't going to help anything. What we need to do as a manager is to say who is doing the responsibility, when is it supposed to be done by, and then checking in with them to make sure it gets done. Okay?
Okay.
Cool. But yeah, this is there's nothing wrong with this. We just it's kind of duplication of work a little bit. But it might be helpful. It might be helpful in a new way. Any other questions about anything?
Hello, Jay. I wanted to learn more taxes. Can I be allowed with Zillow?
Yeah, so Zilu can ask anyone to work with him anytime. Also, Joseph, you Farah and Wahoo can work with Joseph at any time to learn how to do the payroll. So they were interested in learning how to do some of the payroll, including the hours and pay spreadsheet verification. So they can work with Joseph during Zuri times or other old world times to learn from you, okay? And do training.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, I think we're ready to check out. So Lucy, do you want to take us through the checkouts?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, let's start out. Begin with the Wahoo. Can you check out, please? When we check out, you say what you are going to focus on. Yeah. And how was the session?
Okay, the session was good. Keep working on the verification in folder. Making another reschedule with Jay this week. And keep watching the videos.
Is there any particular video that you're watching?
Pardon?
Is there any particular video or responsibility that you're watching videos on?
The Mars and the Venus and the Mercury.
Okay, so planetary videos would not be advised. I mean, it's fine to watch those, but you might get more out of watching videos on specific topics. Do you have the link to the master training videos spreadsheet?
Oh.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So on every single notes under video indexing, there's the link to the session training video indexing spreadsheet. So I'm also going to link this under your checkout. So right here, I'll put it here. So if you go to this, you can find all of the video training. It's a massive amount of information. So you have it's organized by topic and category. And then you have all of it here. It's a lot. Although it looks like a lot of the topics and categories aren't organized correctly. What's going on with that? So this all needs to be organized by category. Okay. But anyways, we have all the topics and categories here, and then you can actually watch things based on what they're about as opposed to just the session itself. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Then the other thing is in relationship to the folder verification. You need to have a spreadsheet. You need to be doing verification. Right, so I think there already exists a spreadsheet and also responsibility organizing. So you need to do responsibility organizing or folder verification, folder and owner verification. This is part of documentation. So the question is, where is the responsibility located, right? So if you aren't doing that, you really shouldn't be working on it, right? So that's the first step. The second step would be, there needs to be a spreadsheet. I think there already might be one that lists each person and states, you know, yes or no if they are verified for all of their documentations. Okay?
Okay.
That's the output. You got to be thinking in terms of output, right? So the output is the verification of each individual, you know, that yes, they have all of their documentations in the correct folder with the correct owner. And
also,
this is not,
who was added me on the global folder, but I can't add any file there. I only have access with the editable folder.
okay, well, we can add you to the global folder. That's super duper easy to do.
It was added, but it's not editable to me, and I can't add there anything.
Okay, so
You can add.
okay, well, let's just make sure we get that taken care of. Maybe
Add
we can do
Zillow,
it now.
add also Steve O. Joseph.
We don't need to add everybody. We would only need to add people who need access to it.
Okay. But they don't need to be on global folder.
What? And everyone should have access to a FQN Google account. So that it needs to be fixed as well. So right now we've got Lucy. Yeah, I mean basically just co-chairs, you know, need to be added here.
0101.
Cool. And then one thing you want to remember is that over time you would go into the publicly editable documents, and then you would take all these publicly editable documents and you would transfer them into into the normal folder.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, and then you want to organize them, etc., 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 etc. So that the publicly editable folder is perfectly fine to use. And see all these where it says Zilu? And this one says Asif. This means that it has the incorrect owner. That make sense?
Okay, so we will change the owner. Okay.
Yeah, you need to change the owner for all of these. I mean, it's a lot of ownership changes. You need to get better at, like, but basically what you need, Zilu, is you need access to the Middle East, like, after just be doc, you know, has one. Anyways, we'll get better at it, and that's why we're going to be verifying it all, and Wahoo's going to help with that. And in the mandatory priority, you know, Wahoo is ranked higher than anyone else, so that's fine. All right. Are ready to check out, Lucy? Or no, we're going to continue with the checkouts. Hello? Lucy, you want to continue with the checkouts?
No.
I rate it at 6.5. For the week, I want to concentrate mostly on learning more taxes from Zulu. And then I'll also work on payroll and invoicing.
Can you then check the calendar and scheduling where you can get Zulu? I think Zulu should see a session to Zuri time.
Yeah, you make sure you communicate with Zulu.
Zulu.
Yes, I will communicate directly.
Sonic time, Zuri time is not availability. I don't have any availability on Zuri. You may come on the Sonic and I will.
It's okay. I will schedule that.
Great.
Okay.
And also, you can
thank
try to find other times if those times don't work. Also, Zulu and anyone working on Mo taxes and the categorization, you do not need to wait for me or other people to put in hours and hours going through every single category and line item. If you have a question, just throw it on Skype. Be like, what about this one? One at a time or 5 at a time. Send an email, because it's like, there's no reason just to not do anything. It's just like break it down to individual line items, break it down to 5 at a time, send the emails, continuously be asking questions instead of just being like, oh, we're just going to ignore all these categories that are yellow and not done and just wait for someone else to do them. It's like actively engage and communicate. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Albina, can you check out?
Yeah, the session was good. I gave it 6. 5. Focus on rankings, payroll, sponsorship program, and IU taxes.
Okay. Are you related to more taxes, Jen? Or that's a different thing? Zulu.
IU is in MOE, under MOE.
Yeah, that's part of Mo taxes.
Is it the same?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
But
Yes. Yes.
Under more taxes, but not really.
Okay. Jay, can you check out? Oh, Albina, sorry. Are you through? Sorry.
I'm done. Even I just wrote. I'm finished.
Okay, Jay, can you check out?
Okay.
This Jay still on mute. I can check out.
Oh. Sorry.
The session was good. I will give it 7. Oh, we have a lot of tasks that we need to focus on, especially budget. I'm going to work on budget. And also help on invoice a little bit. And also IU taxes and sponsorship program. Maybe Tracy event also with the guideline of Jay.
Is it going to happen, Jay? Because you said it. I think we have 5 days. Are we still going to focus on Tracy event?
It's on Saturday, so it's in 2 days, and I'm going either way. So my goal is to have business cards, stickers, sign up sheets, just have it all ready so that we can do the highest level of investor relations. But if I don't have anything, I'll just go with myself and just talk to people and write things on my phone or whatever. So I'm going either way, and then there's going to be a lot of follow-up afterwards. So afterwards, we're going to have a bunch of list of contacts. We're going to need to send emails and communicate and follow up and make sure that in case we do find new contacts or new resources or potential investors, that we don't just let it fall through the cracks.
So currently we don't have responsibility that we can help you on that?
Yes, you can help on that, in that it's focusing as a real-time virtual assistant work.
Which is exactly what that we can help you on.
Yeah, and
So that
Farah's helping with the management of that as well.
Okay. Thank you. You can check out now, Jay.
Okay. I thought this session was pretty good. I give it also around a 6.5 or so. I'm really glad we prioritized our goals. When we get, now that when we go into our steering team meetings and quarter moons and full moons, that we'll be able to review where we are in the month for our goals. I'll be working on the Tracy event, as well as the Mission Within and the VZ Exit Mesh, and transferring money to Vienna, and payroll and process system methods, all of it. So there's lots to do. Check.
Yeah. Or even report. Is it policy, Albina? We have a lot.
Yeah, with the policies, I decided that we wanted to create a new policy doc as a project. So we're going to split up the processes and systems is going to be separate from policies now. And policies is mainly going to focus on protocols. Okay?
Okay. Val tracking. I'm going to do val tracking later with anyone who is available.
Even the other one, I think we did not even do the value tracking for the previous.
Yeah.
So we'll combine together and do it later.
Yes.
And then if you available tomorrow to prioritize the taxes for the EU completion, then if you allow me to make clear on few YOLOs, then I can run over the others so that it will decrease your time there.
Okay, but definitely just, don't hesitate. You have a question about a category, just throw it out on Skype and ask for help with it instead of waiting. I think it would be good to just get the communication going on that. But yeah, tomorrow was good. Just Skype me, remind me, let me know, and I'll do my best to be there for that if I can.
Okay.
But I also need to prioritize the Tracy event, because that'll be the last time to be able to work on it. Okay. And Wahoo, I did double check on the verification of document ownership and folder and correct folder. This responsibility is not particularly organized. It used to be called making sure team docs are usable, which is not the correct terminology. And there is no verification spreadsheet. So you need to create a verification spreadsheet, and then just list each person and whether their documents are correct ownership or folder. Okay, and then it's just yes or no. So you're verifying each person individually, and then you want to link the verification spreadsheet into the documentation project doc. And I will put this all here, and then this is going to be the link. Oh, no, this is the link right here. So this is going to be the link for the responsibility organizing.
Can you share screen so that she can see?
Yeah.
Oh, well, here I'm just going to link the responsibility organizing. Okay.
Okay.
So, well, let's do this. So the responsibility is going to be called verification of document ownership and correct folder, right?
Mhm.
and then here's the link. Okay.
So it's this, since that we have a lot of documents that we create, how can we go back with all these documents and check which one is not in the right folder, which is it, one is in the right? Because we have
One person at a time.
Okay. I know one
Lucy, you
person at a
asking
time. Like, for example, maybe I have a lot of documents that are not in the right document. When Wahu say, Lucy, your document is most of your documents are not in the right folder. So how will I know which specific document are not in the right folder?
The only
Just
way.
go to the folder, then you see. It's under your ownership.
Okay.
Yeah, only you can tell whether or not your documents are in the correct folder, not Wahoo. Wahoo can only tell if the owner is correct. Zilu?
Just
Okay, I still not able to add any file there. It's not editable to me.
All right, let me check. Does anyone else need to check out, or are we looking good?
we're looking good.
Everyone have
I think we're done with the checkouts. I just created the budget system doc and indexed the information. So
Great, and make sure you link that into the budget doc as
Yeah.
well as the systems and processes doc.
okay, I'll just link on the system and processes. It's already on the budget doc.
Great.
Okay. Bye. Everyone.
Also, where can I link this one? Communication ranking check-in spreadsheet. Where? Is it under worker coordination?
Communication, that would be part of rankings.
Okay, rankings.
Oh, you know what happened, Zilu? It stalled. Remember my computer stopped working?
maybe.
Wait, it's not working. I don't know. I don't know why it wouldn't work.
Maybe check his email if you put the right email.
Let me send out a request there. Then it will be helpful a lot.
Okay, I think it worked now. All right, it says that email. I gave you some sort of email. Can organize, add, and edit. So it's some sort of emails. You have to do the email verification, okay?
Okay.
So try that. All right, I'm going to take off. Good work, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Have
Bye.
a good night.
Yeah, bye-bye.